Story 1. Frock Leaps, a woman who disappeared in Germany, called her family several times during her disappearance. Her last phone call was very mysterious, and she was found dead, murdered sometime later. Story 2. The disappearance of Lars Joachim Mittank. He was a German individual who suddenly began running away from the building of a Bulgarian airport where he was supposed to catch a flight. This incident was all captured on camera, which shows him abandoning his bags and appearing to be in quite a distressing state. The reason for his flight remains a mystery. Story 3. The disappearance of Antoinette Cayedito, a Native American girl who was kidnapped from her home in 1986 when she was 10 years old and never found, is one of the more unsettling and disturbing disappearances I have heard about, especially the audio of her trying to phone the police and some angry male voice intervening, followed by her screams. Story 4. The Yuba County Five. 5 men went to a basketball game and disappeared under very strange circumstances in the snow, and one of them was never found. One was found in a trailer, having starved to death over several months before being found. There is a documentary on Netflix about it. Story 5. There is this underwater cave in Death Valley called the Devil's Hole. The opening is a small hole in the ground, but it is so deep that the bottom has never been found. It has also recorded wave activity following earthquakes on other continents. Story 6. The Beast of Gavaudan. In the 1740s in France, an unknown creature started attacking and mauling people, mostly women and children. Descriptions from survivors varied from being like the largest wolf they had ever seen, to red-furred and the size of a cart horse, to as big as a bear with glowing red eyes. As hysteria spread, the beast allegedly gained the ability to walk upright and even speak. There were reports that the thing laughed at them when they prayed for God to save them. Its reign of terror finally ended when a wolf hunter named Jean Chastel finally shot the thing with what he claimed was a blessed silver bullet. Its body was intended to be sent to Paris for study, but decayed so badly in the interim as to be lost. Theories suggest the creature was anything from an exceptionally large wolf or a pack of them. A hyena escaped from a private collection. A wolf-dog hybrid possibly under the control of a human, or even a human serial killer wearing a hairy disguise. Story 7. The Maura Murray disappearance. Not because of the case itself, which is full of weird stuff and does have some creepiness in its own right, but because it has spawned an obsessive subculture of Maura Murray enthusiasts, which boasts a lot of very creepy people in its ranks. I understand the intrigue, I really do, but there are some people who are beyond obsessed with this case and not in a good or helpful way. Story 8. Not creepy as such, but super fascinating. The Istal Woman. Several alias identities, bizarre circumstances, all very interesting. Story 9. Arguably the most famous unsolved mystery in my country, Singapore, is the McDonald's boys case. 2 young boys went to school one day and just disappeared. To me, what makes this story all the more chilling is the phone call one of their mothers received after the fact, not asking for ransom, but snarling at her to not hope for her son's return. Story 10. Not really that creepy, but nobody, at least publicly, knows what happened to the Amber Room in the Catherine Palace of St. Petersburg. The contents were looted by the Nazis, but at some point, the paper trail just stops. Someone, somewhere is sitting on a lot of amber. That, or it got destroyed by bombs. Story 11. Lake City Quiet Pills. It's a strange and eerie mystery that may be nothing or may be a wild conspiracy. Story 12. Not the creepiest one, but a truly enigmatic case is that of the Plaquemines hanged boy or the Plaquemines Parish John Doe from 1975. Enigmatic and very sad. Story 13. In May of 1967, 3 boys went to explore a cave on the south side of Hannibal, Missouri. A few people claim to have seen them walking toward the caves between 4:30 and 5:15, but they were never seen again. Lots of speculation, but nothing concrete about what happened. Story 14. Probably not as creepy as others, but I think about it all the time. The disappearance of Ben McDaniel. He went on an unauthorized cave dive and went missing. No one has found his body, and no one has found him. Story 15. The Flannan Isles Lighthouse. I often think about this one with these 3 men just being washed out to sea, considering the history of keepers and how all 3 could make fatal mistakes. Story 16. Content trigger warnings for days. This is pretty distressing. The Abaddon Forest of Horror, also known as the Abaddon House of Horror or Saka, was a dilapidated building believed to have been used for human trafficking and ritual sacrifice located in Saka Forest in Ibadan, Oyo State, Nigeria. The building was discovered on March 22, 2014, by a group of motorcycle taxi drivers who had formed an impromptu search party after the disappearance of a driver in the area. I don't believe they ever found the driver. It's all so grim. Story 17. The disappearance of Pennsylvania District Attorney Ray Gricker. A summary does it no justice. Just grab a beer and search for it. Story 18. An XKCD comic has a pretty good take on weird and unexplained stuff. For a deeper dive, see Explain XKCD. Edit, Malaysian Airlines, Zodiac Killer, and Dyatlov Pass all show up on it. Story 19. Here is the revised text, with corrections and adjustments made for better compatibility with Azure Text-to-Speak AI. How old Catherine Howard was. I am a Tudor nerd. Henry VIII was 49 and Catherine could have been as young as 15. Story 20. The case is not completely unsolved. One of the perpetrators was imprisoned and apparently took his own life a year later. 2 other suspects are still at large. However, the death of the victim was truly tragic, and the photographs that circulated widely were chilling. The murder of Christine Silowan took place in 2019 on the island of Cebu in the Philippines. A 16-year-old girl was discovered dead in the middle of a field with multiple stab wounds, naked from the torso down. The most horrifying detail was that her face had been skinned entirely, and the images of her skull peering out went viral. An autopsy further revealed that her tongue, trachea, esophagus, parts of her neck, and her right ear were missing. It was also confirmed that she had been raped. Story 21. The SOS incident in Japan. Not much makes sense about the thing. Story 22. The Mary Celeste was a sailing ship that was found with no crew. None of the lifeboats were missing, and all the cargo was intact. Story 23. The Yuba County 5 case is uncertain in terms of when exactly it occurred, but it was around the 1970s, perhaps. It's a case involving a group of 4 men who went on a quick road trip to a basketball game and took a very strange route on their way back. Their vehicle was found with the engine still running. 3 of the men's bodies were found in odd locations and places, but one of the men has never been found to this day. Several YouTube channels have covered this story. If you search the name of the case, you can find some videos. Story 24. I have a friend who was found murdered in his truck. It was littered with bullet holes and found crashed into a wall on the side of the road. No leads, and it remains unsolved to this day. This year will be 15 years in December. For more information, please refer to the Silent Witness website and look for the case of Eric Auker, located at 4747 South Power Road in Mesa, Arizona. Story 25. A friend of mine got a phone call and left his mom's house in a huff and never returned. They later found him dead after a couple of weeks' search. Really, really sad. He was such a good guy who spent most of his time feeding the homeless. The Board of Supervisors shut him down multiple times for lack of a permit. They are awful people who don't like the homeless at all, and picking up trash in the community every single day. His death was deemed a suicide, but no information on how. A day after the news was posted, quite a few people posted comments in a forum like, "Haha, good," and saying they hope he killed himself. Absolutely awful city to live in. Marv, I wish I knew what happened to you. You did more for Redding, California than anybody. Story 26. The disappearance of 3 Czech students who were hiking in the Albanian Accursed Mountains in 2001. They were never found, but from various investigations, it seems that they were kidnapped and killed by a ring trafficking in human organs that operated in the area at the time. Story 27. Istel woman. An unidentified, partially burned body of a woman was found near Bergen in Norway in the 1970s. All identification marks on her clothes and belongings were removed. Police suspected some foreign intelligence involvement. Story 28. In 1985, Vernon County, Wisconsin, a woman identified by the name of Terry Dalloway and her dog were reported missing from her trailer park by her boyfriend, Russell Lee. The door to her trailer was left open with no signs of Terry or her dog. Days later, a few passersby found her burning body on the side of the road, missing a head. Her head and poodle were never found by police, as well as the killer. Story 29. There was a serial cat killer in Olympia, Washington a few years back. He would mangle the cats and display them in a strange manner. This happened for a full year and then it stopped. It remains unsolved. Story 30. How a box of 12 popsicles, comprised of 3 flavors, ends up half one flavor is a question to ponder. Is there just a big pile of popsicles at the popsicle factory, and they throw them in there all willy-nilly? Story 31. I think everyone has the question covered. All I knew of were named to my knowledge. So, I'll share my own mystery. One morning, I woke up and couldn't find my glasses. This isn't uncommon since I fall asleep with them on sometimes. So I looked around, couldn't find them, and began to stress out because I had to go to work. After hunting for a while, I just left for work and ready to suffer for the day. But my glasses were in my car. How? It's not like I got off of work the afternoon the day before, took them off in the car, and never put them on for the other half of the day. I can't say I remember taking them off or falling asleep with them on that night, but I can say there is not a day where I just don't wear my glasses. So I would have known I lost them before bed. Story 32. One of the creepiest unsolved mysteries is the case of the Black Dahlia, where a young woman named Elizabeth Short was found brutally murdered and mutilated in Los Angeles in 1947. Her killer was never identified, and the case remains one of the most infamous unsolved murders in history. Story 33. What happened to Marshall Iwasa? I don't buy that it's drugs. Story 34. The Dyatlov Pass incident. In February 1959, 9 hikers were killed while trekking in the Ural Mountains. The Soviet government originally attributed a compelling natural force as the cause. The creepiest unsolved mysteries are the ones that seem unnatural and evil. Ones that show not only intent but also malevolence. The things human beings are capable of doing to others can be horrific. But horrific isn't always creepy. Nature can be horrific too. But in the end, humans are mortal and nature is not evil. Creepy is anything that seems supernatural and malevolent, because who are we going to call? Ghostbusters? Story 35. There's something about the phrase, "who put Bella down the witch elm in Hagley would," that creeps me out. Story 36. Deaths of Chris Kremers and Liz and Fruin, Dutch students who disappeared in April 2014 while hiking the El Pianista Trail in Panama. Story 37. I forgot her name, but it's the one regarding the woman who stayed in a hotel and was later found dead in a large water tank because guests had been complaining about weird tasting and looking water. I think they also made a movie about it. Story 38. The Dyatlov Pass incident, where 9 experienced hikers died under mysterious circumstances in the Ural Mountains in 1959, remains one of the most macabre, unsolved mysteries. Story 39. I am not gay, I am straight, but the Doodler killings. The Doodler was a serial killer who terrorized San Francisco's LGBTQ population in the 1970s, approximately the same time as the Zodiac Killer was scaring the residents of San Francisco. The Doodler had sex with each of his victims, all gay men, before killing them. Unlike the Zodiac, the Doodler didn't send cryptic messages to media outlets but left drawings of the faces of his victims and left them next to their bodies. Like the Zodiac, the Doodler has never been identified and brought to justice. Story 40. This isn't much of a mystery nor is it creepy, but just something I'd rather get off my chest. I don't want to explain how I stumbled upon this site, but basically after looking up something pretty boring but also super specific, I came across a website from the 90s. This site went deep into subjects like government conspiracies, indie bands I've never heard of, and a convention that was held annually since the 90s. Tons of online journals and different retellings from those conventions were posted on the site. It was heavily implied that hardcore drugs were used, and a guy overdosed at the last one, and that's kind of the reason why they stopped hosting them. Actually, I could be completely misremembering that last part. Like I said, the site just has a ton of information, and it's hard to remember it all. I have tried my absolute best to go through as much as possible on the site, but there are so many hidden pages and just never-ending pages. Each page usually takes you to 3 entirely new pages. Anyway, it's not too creepy like I said, but I found it all really interesting.